Kira at Bashi, Ryan on the ocean, Bryce on the ocean, the Doctors and Dragons podcast, The Beast at Tanagra, Doctors and Dragons, Daenerys on the poison water, William, the Dalek beneath Salt Lake City, Shaka, when the walls fell, Zinda, his face black, his eyes red, Kadir beneath Momota, Bryce, Kiteo, his eyes closed, Ryan, Chenza at court, the court of silence, Mirab, with sails unfurled, Kiazi's children, their faces wet, Kailash, when it rises, Sokath, his eyes uncovered, the Triple Doink podcast, The Beast at Tanagra, Ryan and Bryce, Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra, the River Termac in winter, SpongeBob, as Patrick tells him of the ugly barnacle, Temba, his arms wide, the Triple Doink podcast. How are you, Bryce?
I was like, that is. So when I say that's from SpongeBob, I'm not wrong, right?
There was one SpongeBob reference.
There's one. What is okay? So I need to ask what this formulaic poem, where this came from in that psyche of yours. What in God's name?
Here's the thing. If we get William to listen to this, he'll immediately understand and he'll find it funny. This is in reference to an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation called Darmok, which is one of my favorite episodes. And basically they encounter this alien race that only speaks through metaphor. And yeah. So yeah, I used mostly
that only speaks through metaphor. Wait, that just dawned on me. That sounds so fucking.
It sounds like a horrible premise, but it's actually a really good episode. The episode's called Darmok. Honestly, if you watch one episode of the show, just look that up. But anyway, yeah, I used a lot of phrases from that. I also threw in some other references, like I threw in the SpongeBob one. I threw in Daenerys on the poison water. I threw in William the Dalek beneath Salt Lake City.
I was just like, it's a metaphoric history of our podcast endeavors.
Yes.
That is 5 stars.
Thank you.
5 stars.
Okay.
The power within.
The power within.
The power within.
Okay, so yes, everybody, welcome to the Triple Doink Podcast. This is episode 9. I'm Ryan, joined by Bryce, the Darmok to my Jalad. How are you, Bryce?
I'm doing quite nice. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Sorry we had to take a week break. Finals were coming on, and I made the humble decision to forego the masses with their entertainment to pursue my own academic endeavors.
Yeah. By the way, one last thing on the Star Trek thing. I should mention the reason that I thought of this is I listened to a podcast called Star Trek: The Next Conversation.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Star Trek: The Next Conversation is a great podcast and a great podcast name. But
second only to Doctors and Dragons.
Second only to Doctors and Dragons. But
the now terminated.
The now terminated Doctors and Dragons. But anyway,
great run.
Debatable.
Debatable.
But anyway,
okay.
Anyway, the last episode that they put out was their episode talking about Darmok. That's what made me think to do this. And they haven't put one out in a few weeks because Matt Myra, one of the guys on the podcast, recently had a kid. So, yeah.
What a lazy sack of shit.
What now?
I was about to say, what a lazy, unforgiving sack of shit. How dare he?
Yeah, I forgive him.
attending to
Anyway.
his family needs over the duty to provide the masses of Star Trek nerdophilia. What would it be? Nerdabilia or whatever? You'd
I don't
combine
know.
the two words of
Anyway,
memorabilia and nerd. So
if you like this podcast, you'll love Star Trek: The Next Conversation. So check them out.
oh man.
Anyway, I feel like we should get into our podcast at this
All
point.
So I have non-related National Football League news to get out of the
Okay.
way, as it relates to two things. I mean, we could talk about a little bit of basketball, I feel, because the Bucks are doing quite well.
Yeah.
Despite what was Giannis's one. I don't like that angle that people take. It's like 1 game out of MVP.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, I feel as though winning 6 games in a row and then dropping one in a series that's almost over, not the worst thing in the world.
Well, it's not almost over. If they lose tonight, the series is even.
Well,
So
yeah, but like considering how each game has gone,
yeah, I don't
Giannis
think they're
scored,
going to
like, what,
lose.
12 points or something, and they were still into double overtime.
I know.
Like that's
Yeah, and
just
I mean, they didn't-
wild.
Honestly, I think they would have. They might have won if Giannis hadn't fouled out. To be honest.
Yeah.
But
No, I think they do win that, honestly.
anyway, yeah. I feel like they'll probably bounce back and win tonight, and then they'll probably win Game 5 on Thursday, and all will be well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Trailblazers couldn't make it a series against Golden State. They got
Oh, yeah.
swept. So
Oh yeah.
Golden State's
We'll
in the
just gentlemen sweep. Don't worry. That's the plan.
Mm.
They needed rest. That's why he fouled out.
But yeah,
early,
I'm not-
so he couldn't have to play. It's all a
I'm not
strategy.
too worried about the Raptors, the remainder of the Raptors series.
Yeah,
I feel like the Bucks will be just fine.
that's what bench depth will give you. Even
Mhm.
without your star player, you're still even with a top 4 team in the league. Like,
Yeah, I know. Like even in that game, which they lost, like there were long stretches in the third quarter where we had all of our bench guys out there, and they were out playing the Raptors starters.
it's
Like because the Bucks were down early in that game, and they lost the first quarter, and then they won the second, third, and fourth to tie it. So
like if the first quarter wasn't a blunder, the game's over. Like immediately. That's actually how gross.
well, right,
this
which
team
is actually how Game 2 went for the Bucks. Like
Yeah.
the Bucks got off to a hot start in Game 2 and just never looked back. So
It's really hard to I feel
Are you
though
okay?
it's very hard to get a lead late in the game against the Bucks. Like that's I
Yeah.
think the hardest. Like they're probably the best team to have a lead and keep it.
yeah, if you get down against the Bucks, good luck. Like if you get down by a lot, good luck. You've got to keep the game close if you're gonna beat Milwaukee. You can't get down by 10, 15 points at any point, or there's very little chance you can come back.
And my dad was also mentioning this when we were watching the game, and I said, "Have you ever seen anyone do what Giannis does in the paint?"
Oh, I know.
And he said Michael Jordan. That was it.
Mm.
The only other person he's seen drag like 4 people into the paint and still score is Michael Jordan.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I've talked to my dad about that too, and he said, he watched Jordan in his prime, and he's like, even Jordan couldn't do some of the things that Giannis does.
And Giannis is doing this when he's so young. Yep.
Yeah.
Jordan didn't win a championship till he was 30, in his 30s. Like,
yeah, and it occurred to me too that, like Giannis, whenever I watch the Bucks play, he redefines what I think is humanly possible, because like he does things, and I just go,
shouldn't be able to.
I just go, okay,
1v5 in the paint.
I didn't know that a human being could do that with a basketball, but apparently apparently it can be done by one human being.
He literally, there are moments where he just takes a play and he's just, well, I guess I can just try to 1v5. I'll draw a foul no matter what. Like that's like a guarantee.
Yeah.
So he draws a foul no matter what. if he can get a 3-point shot, he will be in contention for the best player of all time if he has a long career and a 3-point shot. Those are the as long as he stays healthy, which is always the be all end all,
Yeah.
But he also if he works on his 3-point in the next few off seasons, he's gonna be nuts. And Milwaukee will be for a decade. This could happen now. Like, we talked about the MVPs of each Wisconsin major sports team, right? We talked about that already.
Yep.
What could happen is that Milwaukee, both of them, and Green Bay all bring in a championship one year.
Yeah, it could happen.
The triple Doink championship.
By the way, it has never happened, what you're describing. And in fact, it's never even happened that a football team and a baseball team from the same state have won in the same year, which is amazing when you consider that
they've been around
California
for 50 plus years.
And when you consider that California has 3 football teams, now 4, and 5 baseball teams, they've never done it. That's pretty incredible.
And I mean, how are the Brewers doing this year? I don't watch baseball, and I never will.
They're doing okay. They're right now they're a few games out of first in the NL Central, but it's still really early. The thing that worries me about the Brewers is the pitching, the starting pitching, but hopefully they can sort that out. Jimmy Nelson's supposed to be back soon, so that'll hopefully right the rotation.
Now whenever I think of pitching, I'm just going to think of Bob Gibson.
Yeah, we need a Bob Gibson.
Dude, Bob Gibson. Going out of your way to watch his film when you're because after I watched it, I'm like, this player is super interesting. I love his mentality too. Holy, the fact that he has the mentality of, I'm just going to make these guys feel as uncomfortable and scared as possible on the mound. I don't give a shit. Hell yeah, what a competitor. Dude, Bob Gibson, what a legend.
The other thing that worries me about the Brewers, too, is some of our hitters have really been struggling. Guys who kind of carried us last year. Obviously, Yelich has just been nuts. But the rest of the team, Kane and Braun are still doing their thing. They're fine, and Moose is always going to be fine. But Shaw, who's injured right now, but before that he was struggling. Aguilar has really struggled, and that's a big disappointment. We need him. But they went and they called up Keston Hiura, this second baseman who they had in AAA. They called him up when Shaw got hurt, and he's been really good in his first few games. He hit a home run the other day. He got an infield hit in his first major league at bat. So I like him. Plus, he's a right-handed hitter, which gives us some balance, because I think the Brewers have too many lefties in their lineup. But anyway.
Mm-hmm. And the other non-related football news that I wanted to get out of the way, which is only I would know about this.
I stopped hearing you.
Hello?
Yeah, I hear you now.
All right. So the other non-related football news that I want to bring up is the mid-season invitational has concluded for League of Legends. And for the first time ever since the first World Championship, which barely counts because it's the first World Championship so much as the Super Bowl is a World Championship, and that it only had Europe and America, and the game was super small at the time, so no one really counts it at that time. It wasn't even called it. I'm getting on a tangent right now, but for the first time ever, if we don't count that, in an international tournament, Europe won.
It's like how the first Olympics was just Greeks.
Yeah. Wait, that makes sense, but fuck you. Oh my.
Sorry.
Oh my. But yeah, Europe won, which is insane to think historically, but makes a lot of sense given recency. In that League of Legends used to be a game that basically revolved around nothing but this slow and methodical way of playing where you basically, instead of trying to make things happen, you try to mitigate things happening so that you eventually just have this very controlled environment.
So it's
Now
like football. It's like football before the forward pass.
I guess.
Man, I'm killing it with these analogies today.
But now it's literally people like the team that won is essentially known for having an insane mid game. And I mean, I think you can, like, just as chess works with the early mid, like opening, mid, and late game and all that. It's the exact same terminology in this sense. There's even things like gambits in League, which is a lot of fun.
Terminology. It's different terminology because in chess we have the opening, middle game, and end game.
Yes. We have early game, mid game, late game, and then end game. And late and end are almost used interchangeably, but there's some differences, and I think end game actually is like when every single champion's at full build, full items, and it's just like next fight, no matter what happens, wins or loses the game. That I think is end game, and late game is more just like 35 minutes in, 40 minutes in, if that gets to that point. But G2 is the type of team that basically just be like, they can lose the early game by like really hard, equivalent to like blundering your queen, right? And they'll just eventually be so ahead in the mid game it doesn't matter. Like and the way they played as well, like the finals was the fastest best of 5 series in League history. It lasted 70 minutes. In most games, like they're in the 30 to 40 minute range, right? So they won 3 games total in less than 70 minutes.
Huh.
Like that is G2 are incredibly dominant, and it's really fun to watch a Western team actually do good, because it's been nothing but China and Korea for 8 years. So yeah, a lot of fun. Watching it with a lot of analysts in the scene is a lot of fun as well.
I really do feel like I still am not into League of Legends. I haven't got into any competitive esports, but I feel like if I started watching it, I really could enjoy it. I just haven't had the time to do it yet.
Honestly, if you want a game, right, where you don't have to play it to understand a lot of it, right? And you can get into it. It's very viewer friendly, I would say. Where, like, you know how football is not very viewer friendly? League of Legends is a lot like football in that way, where it's like there's a lot of rules, a lot of things that you're just not gonna understand unless you've watched like a lot of games. And you can't, and unlike it's not really a rule book you can read with League, you know.
Right. Well, like my favorite thing, like in football, for example, is that there are 4 different penalties that all mean the same thing. You've got offsides, encroachment, neutral zone infraction, and unabated to the quarterback that all mean the same thing.
The person was off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Like, they're all just slight variations of the same thing.
And everyone, unless if you've watched for decades like we have,
yeah,
it's getting to that point where it's going to be 2 decades of football in my life. Jesus. I'm old.
Yeah, it's getting to that point for me too. I mean, I'm 23. I
started watching when I was started.
4. Yeah, I was older than that when I started. So we actually probably started around the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I started in the season that the Eagles lost the Super Bowl.
Yeah, actually that's to the Patriots. Yeah, that's the same same season I started. I think I told you about that. Yeah.
I remember watching the Packers blow the 4th and a billion.
Yeah.
That's when I realized I fucking hate football. And then I started watching it still because my dad liked football and I liked my dad. And it was a lot of fun seeing him go jumping up and down. That's why I get really hyper nowadays. It's all come from him.
Okay, so anyway, we should probably talk about football now.
I think it's now football time.
All right, so
2 weeks
let's get into Yeah, we have been off for 2 weeks now, because as Bryce mentioned, we took last week off. So let's get into the biggest thing that happened, which is the Jets. The
Adam Gase,
Jets,
the general manager getting fired is so fucking weird.
yeah, the Jets fired Mike Maccagnan, their general manager, and yeah, so a very short-lived power struggle between Maccagnan and Gase.
Gaze, I am the Senate.
Yeah, yeah. Which resulted in Gase now being acting GM as well as head coach. Um, so
Power's not
yeah,
getting to his head, I swear. Dude, if they
yeah,
make the playoffs, I don't think it matters.
no, and it probably doesn't. And I was really interested when it happened to hear Dan Hansus's take, and his take was essentially that yes, the timing is bad, but they've known for a while that Mike Maccagnan probably should have gotten fired. Like he probably should have gone the same time Todd Bowles did, but they kept him around for this offseason.
I mean, he didn't have that bad of an off season. In all
No,
fairness,
his offseason was fine. And in fact, if this Jets team, the other point that Dan made was that if this Jets team goes on to be successful this year and in uh, the coming years, that Mike Maccagnan goes down as the guy who drafted Sam Darnold, the savior. You know?
I mean, Sam Darnold is like, I believe Sam Darnold to be up there with Baker Mayfield. He's just the type of quarterback that
Yeah,
needs to develop. Like,
I believe in Sam Darnold. I think he'll be a good player, and if he turns out to be, then yeah, Mike Maccagnan's going to go down as the guy that saved the Jets.
I mean, I think for now, for this year, I think that everyone, I believe, and I think you do as well, that they're going to be a really good team, and they're gonna.
Yeah, you are higher on the Jets than I am, but I am still higher on them than I think the general population is.
Yeah, I don't know why.
So,
What is wrong with this team? They have a great front seven. They have an offense that has some veterans, has some guaranteed talent as well, and people that could in the next year have their breakout year. They have several of those. They
yeah,
have a lot of facilitators also, and their secondary isn't bad on defense as well. They're just a very solid team.
yeah, the Jets do look really good on paper, and the one thing though that I think could undermine this is this whole front office tension situation. It's like
Do you think players care about the front office?
I think that players like Le'Veon Bell
Don't
hearing
care.
that no, I think him hearing that Adam Gase did not want him, and it was Mike Maccagnan who signed him against Gase's wishes, and now Maccagnan's out. I feel like that could piss Bell off.
Uh,
Same thing for C.J. Mosley that came out regarding him as well. So those sorts of things, like
uh,
especially if the team loses a couple games early in the season, that could get to be a very toxic situation, just like Jacksonville was last year.
I don't. What here? Players perform better when they're mad. They just do.
It sometimes it works out, other times it does not.
I don't. I'm not. I'm not willing to pull the trigger on this already. I'm not
Look,
willing to even.
I'm not saying that this is going to
Oh
happen.
no, I know. No,
I think it's more likely that the Jets will be good. I'm just saying if it goes sour, this could be the reason that it goes sour.
if it goes sour, I think it's because they weren't good enough to win.
Mm.
I don't think it. Front office woes, whatever. They wanna. They're here to play football. They're not here to discuss like their who they like, what they like, who they would have gotten or what, and where money should have gone. I don't think they care.
Mm.
Once the roster is here, they're just like, all right, now we need a game plan. Why are we gonna win? How are we gonna win? That's I think all they care about, especially someone like Adam Gase.
Mm. It is really, really weird timing, though.
It is. It's
To
weird.
be honest, like I said
It's
before,
funny.
they should have probably fired. They should have probably fired McCagnon at the same time that they fired Todd Bowles.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think
They let him give a
McCagnon got
ton of
lot
money to Le'Veon Bell and C.J. Mosley first and run the draft where they had the number 3 pick, and then they fired him.
To be fair, he did give him a lot of pieces that I think are valuable. I believe Le'Veon Bell is just that type of player that's just going to be good in his 30s still.
No, I feel like he will. I have high expectations for Lev Bell. It's just I don't know. It's a mess in that front office. Hopefully the team can overcome that and win on the field anyway. And I think they will, but there's doubt. The bottom line here is that like actual football cannot come soon enough.
Yeah. The more we do this podcast, the more I think we crave an actual football game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. August. I want August here so badly.
Yeah, that's not actual football though.
Oh, you don't want preseason either?
No.
That's not even gonna. That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear.
The off season is a lie. The preseason is the biggest of lies.
That's a fantastic word or phrase. But yeah, Jets, as our thumbnail does suggest, are looking straight down on the burning pile of King's Landing.
Yeah, we'll talk Game of Thrones a little bit later. We'll get through the rest of the news first, though. So, the first thing, by the way, continuing with the Jets, immediately after becoming acting GM, Adam Gase, immediately within hours, traded Darren Lee to the Chiefs, and got back peanuts, a 6th round pick, and nothing else.
Peanuts.
So, yeah, it's like this move was probably coming no matter what. I didn't think Darren Lee was going to be on the team to start the season, but it's just interesting that, it's another step in the Chiefs just completely rebuilding that defense.
They're trying, yeah. I mean, the Chiefs look like more and more of a team that is unrecognizable from last year, right?
Yeah.
Their offensive threats are under jeopardy. Are in jeopardy, are under fire. It doesn't seem as though they're going to be as powerful there, but who knows? Maybe Mahomes is just that good. And also we have Andy Reid, who has fantastic game plans and all that jazz. Whatever. But if their defense can hold teams to under 30 points consistently, because I think that's all they need to do, 25, 30 points. If you hold them under that. If you hold teams under 30 points, 10 games on the season, that's 10 wins. Think about it.
Yeah, I mean, with the way that their offense was last year, absolutely it would be. But, and I mean, who knows?
I think that's might be the mentality.
Tyreek Hill being gone, that is an important player, but he's probably the 3rd most important player on that offense. The first two being Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. So I
mean, Tyreek Hill's joke, one of the best receivers in the league.
But yeah, he is. It's a huge loss for them, but I think Andy Reid can overcome it. I really feel like he can.
Bush. Get it? Beat.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Oh man.
Anyway,
I don't know. The punchline was kind of weak.
Yes, it was. That was a tremendous disappointment. But anyway, speaking of tremendous disappointments, let's move on to the news item that is probably most relevant to you, a Jaguars fan, which is Telvin Smith. Stepping away from the team. So here's
I was kind of sad when reading that.
Here's his exact quote from Instagram. At this time, I must take time away from this game and get my world in order. I must give the time back to myself, my family, and my health. So, what is going on with Telvin Smith? We don't know. Hopefully, everything's okay with him and he can get his life straightened out. But from a football angle, which is the only thing we really can talk about, this is a huge blow to the Jaguars' defense.
Why can't Saxonville be back? What? We just drafted Josh Allen and we lose Telvin Smith? Why? Like, I just want people to push offensive linemen down and wrap their arms around quarterbacks. That's all I want to watch. But no, I'm going to take a year off for myself. No, fuck you. Play football for me. I'm important, not you. Telvin Smith is one of my favorite players on that defense, right? But fuck him for taking a year off. Fuck that. I hate this is just a trend with players now where they're just taking years off. Marshawn Lynch did it, and he gained a few years. Adrian Peterson did it. They're doing it usually with running backs, which makes a lot of sense. Why is he taking a year off as a lineman?
Well, apparently to get his world in order, in his own words.
Oh man, this just sounds like. Oh man, is Jacksonville that toxic? Oh man, I don't like using locker room. You know, I never do like using locker rooms as words. As a means to judge a team. Oh. To be like, that's why they failed. Locker room troubles, right?
I stopped hearing you for a second there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. I don't like using locker rooms as a means to judge a team, right? I just don't.
Yeah.
But Telvin Smith taking a year off? Was it that bad last year?
I mean, it was pretty bad.
I mean, I saw Leonard Fournette's steroid-induced rage against the Bills, but I didn't think that it would be so bad that a whole entire player is just going to be like, nah, I missed me with that.
Mm.
And also, whenever a player says, I'll be back, I'm still with the team, don't worry about it, Jacksonville for life. Shut up. No one ever, like... You're never always with a team, right? You're always with... you never believe a player who does that. No one ever is serious when they say shit like that. Yeah.
All right.
I'm scared. I'm just going to say it. I'm scared.
All right. Yeah, it definitely sucks. I mean, like I said up top, I hope everything's okay with Telvin Smith as a person. I hope he's okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, it really does suck for the Jags and for Jags fans. So I feel for you. Okay. So moving on, the Buccaneers have released Gerald McCoy. And we kind of knew that this was coming.
Who is Gerald McCoy?
You know, Gerald McCoy. You don't know who Gerald McCoy is? I mean, come on.
I see what you're doing here, but like, in all seriousness, who the fuck is Gerald McCoy?
Gerald McCoy, born February 5th, 1988, is an American football defensive tackle who is currently a free agent. He played college football at Oklahoma, where he earned consensus All-American honors and was drafted by the Buccaneers 3rd overall in the 2010 draft. Since joining the Buccaneers in the NFL, he has been selected to the Pro Bowl 6 consecutive years. He is also a 3-time first-team All-Pro. So that's who he is. Anyway, so, yeah, we kind of knew this was coming, or I did because I knew who Gerald McCoy was. But, yeah, the Buccaneers were likely to move on from him. I think they were trying to find a trade partner during free agency and the draft and that whole time, but um, ultimately they ended up just cutting him. And now he, along with Ndamukong Suh, are uh, the second and third overall picks from that 2010 draft, and are both free agents who
Huh.
are available. So, yeah,
Dominican Sue's a free agent?
he is still unsigned.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he's still out there. So we'll see how this goes, I guess. We'll see where they end up, and maybe they can each make an impact. I mean, I feel like both players still have something left in the tank. They're not, what they were in their prime, but they've got something left. So
Yeah.
we'll keep an eye on that situation, I guess, see where he lands. So moving on, then we get to talk about the guy who got left out of the thumbnail, Xavier Howard. Um, the Dolphins handed Xavier Howard a 5-year, $76.5 million extension to remain a Dolphin. He was set to be playing out the last year of his contract, so they signed him long term.
Real talk. Who's Xavier Howard?
Do you honestly not know who Xavier Howard is?
Yeah.
Okay. Xavier Howard, let me pull up his Wikipedia article here.
You're gonna. All right. Do you want me to dramatically to pull in
No,
the
no, I
dramatic
got it.
music so
Okay.
you dramatically read the Wikipedia article?
Xavier Howard, born July 4th, 1993, is an American football cornerback for the Miami Dolphins of the National Football League, in parentheses, NFL. He played college football at Baylor and was drafted in the second round, 38th overall of the 2016 NFL Draft by the Dolphins. He is, in my opinion, one of the best corners in the league. There was talk that he could end up getting traded this past offseason, and the Packers were mentioned, and I was so excited at that possibility. I wanted him and
Let's
Jair
see.
Alexander so badly, but it didn't happen, and the Dolphins locked him down long term, which is a good move for their team. They are clearly in the middle of a rebuild, but they think that Howard is a guy that they can build around. So he is now the highest paid corner in the league, and in my personal opinion, well worth it.
Ah, he's all right. Now
He's a
I
cornerback.
obviously because I needed you to explain who he was. I did not know, right? Who yeah, blanking on everything today.
Xavier Howard.
But like cornerbacks shouldn't be paid that much. There are so many cornerbacks now. There are so many good enough
Yeah, there's a lot of
cornerbacks and
corners. There's a
safeties
lot
are
of
way more valuable.
Okay, there's a lot of capable corners out there, but there are very few elite corners out there. There's a huge drop off between that top tier of cornerbacks and then all of the
Jalen Ramsey and all those.
yeah, Jalen Ramsey. I put Jair Alexander up there after one season, but that's just me.
I wonder
Z-
why. Jeez.
Xavier Howard, but like maybe not anymore, but Richard Sherman, those types of guys. There's a huge drop off after that to the average type of corners. You know
Like
what I
Kevin
mean?
King.
Well, we still don't really know what Kevin King is because
Average. He's good
he's been
enough.
so injured. When he's been on the field, I've actually thought he was pretty good, but he just hasn't been on the field much. Um, but no, who's a better example of an average corner in the league right now?
AJ Boye.
Sure, AJ Boye. Although he did have one really dominant year.
I wonder why he was so dominant. It's almost like he was always on the second guy because Jalen Ramsey always was a lockdown corner or something and elevated everyone else on the secondary. Jeez, who would have thought?
No, I'm referring to Boye's last year with the Texans, actually, where he really was dominant.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but no, God damn, why can't I think of one cornerback?
Exactly.
Come
They're
on.
all so interchangeable.
Right. Like, I don't know, like your Shaquille Griffins, you know? I I don't know. But anyway, yeah. Xavier Howard is one of those shutdown corners, I believe, and worth the money. So I like the move for the Dolphins going forward, but we'll see how it works out. I mean, maybe it was a terrible
Yeah.
decision.
I don't know how this is gonna work for them. I don't really care because I think the Dolphins are gonna be crap no matter what.
I mean, this year, yes, but the point of giving him this big extension is to build for the future. So, anyway, speaking of shutdown corners, Patrick Peterson has been suspended for 6 games for PEDs.
I still
So
think it's
yeah,
so stupid that they have drug tests anyway. It should only be for steroids and nothing else.
mm,
I think if a player's hyped up, right, on cocaine, they should be. If they want to.
Okay.
If somebody wants to ruin their lives with opiates, let them. But if they want to play football like that, they damn well should be able to.
Okay, well, Bryce has a very unpopular opinion.
I mostly am talking about weed. Those both were clearly like hyperboles, but like when it
Anyway,
comes to like marijuana, there's no reason why. Which is what I think he was. It was because it was weed, right? Or that.
I'm actually not sure. I could look that up really quick though.
If it was like steroids, then like, oh damn it, I wanted to watch him play. That sucks. But like, if it was just marijuana, then like, who the fuck cares? It's not his fault. That's all that I care. If that's the case.
Let's see. Here's a story by Kevin Patra about it. No, it's PEDs, not substance abuse.
What's a PED then?
Performance enhancing drugs, so steroids.
Wait. What a dickhead.
Yeah. So yeah, he'll miss the first 6 games, which is, a big blow for the Cardinals. I mean, we have them, I believe, winning 2 games at the beginning of the season in our predictions and then losing all the rest. So now without Patrick Peterson,
Kyle
I mean,
Murray's
they could.
gonna just score 50 points in the first 2 games and then drop off.
Okay, by the way, I should mention this since you just mentioned him. When you refer to this player, his name is Kyler Murray, and you sometimes call him Kyle Murray.
I sometimes slur his name.
Yeah. Now, I would not object to this, and in fact, I often just ignore it when you terribly mispronounce people's names. But the issue is that Kyle Murray is my friend Kyle, who listened to our old podcast and may or may not listen to this one. So stop calling the Cardinals quarterback Kyle Murray.
All right, I'll just call him Kayla Murray.
Okay, that works. Anyway, so my point that I was getting to, though, is that the Cardinals could very well be candidates for 0-16 at this point. Their schedule is easy at the beginning of the season, and now they're without their best defensive player for the first 6 games.
And then
their schedule
the best quarterback.
What?
I was talking about Josh Rosen.
Oh. Anyway.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Anyway, that's all I really wanted to say about the Patrick Peterson suspension. It's disappointing because I've always liked him.
I mean, as someone who grew up in Arizona, I really like Patrick Peterson, like naturally.
Yeah.
But
anyway, other suspension news, Deion Jordan has been suspended 10 games, the Seahawks defensive lineman, formerly of the Dolphins. This is, I think, his 3rd run-in with the substance abuse policy. Adderall, I believe, is the drug that he abused this time.
How dare he?
Um,
Come on, it's ADHD. You'd never know.
yep. So anyway, I don't really have much to say about that, but
He had the need for speed.
but worth mentioning. And in other Seahawks news, they released Doug Baldwin, who now appears likely to be retiring, as well as releasing Cam Chancellor, who will probably retire as well. Chancellor missed all of last season with injuries, and this has kind of been inevitable that they'd part ways with him this offseason. But yeah, Doug Baldwin, I mean, that's a huge loss for their offense.
I mean, he was, kind of plummeting in value, but yeah, I think he was still dynamic. His route running is something of legend at times. But Tyler Lockett was clearly the wide receiver one at that point. So just as one of those things where, well, now they don't have as much depth. But
yeah, and I mean, he was still an impact player on their offense.
Yeah. I won't deny that. I love Doug Baldwin. I had him on my fantasy team for like 3 years in a row.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to be asking DK Metcalf now to step in and fill that role, and I don't know if he's
not a good route runner. He's one of the worst route runners in the draft.
Yep.
He was literally just, I can run downfield, and I'm just physically more superior to my counterpart, but I can't catch the ball, and I can't route run. It's like, well, shit. That's the job of a wide receiver. He's a fantastic athlete, not a fantastic football player.
Yeah, I suppose. So we'll see if the Seahawks offense is able to overcome the loss of Baldwin. Other retirement news, Chris Long of the Eagles, formerly of the St. Louis Rams, is retiring after a long time. He's been in the league for quite a while.
Case in point,
so yeah,
St. Louis Rams.
I've always liked Chris Long. Always disliked his dad, Howie Long. But
wait, that's his dad?
Yeah, and his brother is Bears offensive lineman Kyle Long. You didn't know this?
Huh.
But anyway, yeah, Chris Long, I honestly, I hope that he is remembered for his social justice type work that he did in his last couple seasons with the Eagles. I always admired that about him. What now?
He also won a Super Bowl. Hey.
Yeah, that's true.
For him.
So yeah, nice career for Chris Long. But moving on. Good God, Captain, we've got a season-ending injury.
I think I read about this. Wait.
Reuben Foster,
yep.
Of the Washington Racists, has torn his ACL. Which is maybe some karma from the universe. Now, if you recall,
I heard a lot of people being like, karma's a bitch, and I was like, I don't know what they're talking about, but I guess he did something bad.
If you recall, he was released from the 49ers when he was being investigated for domestic violence type stuff. The prosecution in the case eventually dropped it. They said there wasn't enough to be able to take it to court or whatever. And while he was still under investigation, Washington signed him, knowing that he would likely be suspended. And I believe the NFL did hand down a suspension to him a couple weeks ago, but now he's out for the season.
I guess the suspension will never be carried out.
Right. So yeah, karma's a bitch. Yeah. Don't hit women if you value your ligaments in your knees. I guess that's the moral of the story, right?
That's clearly.
So moving on, Shane Ray, the former Broncos linebacker, has now signed with the Baltimore Ravens. Um, so he was a first round pick, I believe, but largely inconsistent in Denver. Struggled with injuries throughout most of his time there,
All right.
and honestly, I feel like if there's any spot to go as a struggling linebacker to try to develop, it would be Baltimore. They
Yeah.
just have a history. They coach up linebackers really well there. Um, so it's a good landing spot for him, and perhaps he's obviously very talented. He just hasn't translated that onto the field. So um, hopefully for him, he can make the Ravens defense better.
And the Ravens can make him better all the same.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Um,
I don't think there's a lot else to say about him though.
no. Moving on to the Patriots, they made a bunch of moves. They are first of all bringing back Jamie Collins, which they really needed. They needed somebody on that defensive front. Um, he was with the Patriots, ended up going to the Browns for 3 years, and now he's coming back. Um, so I mean, they needed somebody to fill that hole. So he
Yeah.
probably slots right back into a starting job there. Um, they also signed Dontrell Inman, the wide receiver who spent last year with the Colts and was with the Chargers before that. And of course, they needed wide receiver depth. And they are bringing back veteran tight end Ben Watson, who's been with New Orleans recently.
How
Uh,
long has Benjamin Watson been in the league?
a long time. He started his career with the Patriots.
Back in
I mean,
2005. Right?
let me look it up quick.
Like he is old.
Benjamin Seth Watson, born December 18th, 1980, is an
Jesus
American football tight
fucking
end for the New
Christ.
England Patriots of the National Football League, in parentheses, NFL. He was drafted by the Patriots 32nd overall in the 2004 NFL draft,
Yeah,
and
he's been
later
in.
he would win Super Bowl 39. That's what that is. With the team over the Philadelphia Eagles. He
Hey.
played college football at Georgia. Watson has also played for the Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens, and New Orleans Saints. So yeah, they brought back Ben Watson. I've always liked Ben Watson.
Why you keep calling him Ben?
I don't know. Doesn't he go by
I
Ben?
thought it was Benjamin. It's always been
I mean,
Benjamin.
I think, officially his name is Benjamin Watson, but I think that people call him Ben. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I thought it was always Benjamin Watson.
Okay, fine. I'll call him Benjamin Watson. I've always liked him. Um, so I don't like that he's going back to the Patriots, but I mean, he's obviously kind of on the last legs of his career. He's not obviously going to be the Gronk replacement. He's just going
You
to be a
say
guy.
this, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Um, but anyway, it was worth mentioning. So do you have anything else to say about Benjamin Watson or Dontrell Inman?
No, I don't have anything else to say. I just had a picture to send you.
Uh-huh. I see that.
Is it related? No.
No, not in the slightest. Anyway, moving on. Last time we recorded, we mentioned that Jason Pierre-Paul was in a car accident, and it looked like he was going to be out for the season with neck and back injuries as a result.
Yep.
Apparently, there is still hope for his season. He's met with several specialists, and it turns out he's going to forego surgery,
Whoa.
which means that he could potentially return sometime this season. So he may be our first case of having to use. See, that's where you're wrong, kiddo. But yeah, JPP. obviously would be a huge help on that Tampa Bay defense if they could get him back.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we'll see. So we'll obviously monitor that
The
going
odd
forward.
injury king.
Okay, so now are you ready, Bryce?
With the dramatic music.
With the dramatic music, yes.
Let me see. 3, 2. Let's see. It's playing.
It's playing. Okay, here we go then. This is from BleacherReport.com by Adam Wells. Every rookie has an adjustment period coming into the NFL, but Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray took things to an extreme during his first practice. Per ESPN.com's Josh Weinfuss, Murray ended Friday limping because he wore the wrong pair of cleats on the field. My feet hurt a little bit, he said. It's been a long time since I put cleats on. I've been running around. The cleats were pretty new. Before Arizona fans go into a panic because the new franchise quarterback is already hurting himself, Murray noted he felt pretty good, aside from having sore feet. Head coach Cliff Kingsbury said the Cardinals are trying to get the right cleats for Murray delivered before they practice again Saturday. The Cardinals have a lot invested in Murray as the new face of their franchise. The reigning Heisman Trophy winner was selected number 1 overall in the 2019 NFL Draft and is tasked with bringing the Arizona Cardinals back to prominence. The Cardinals have missed the postseason the last 3 years.
That it?
Yep, that's it.
Dire straits for the Cardinals as Kyler Murray
with the sore feet.
Wears the incorrect pair of cleats. How dare he?
So this article is just another indication of what I said earlier, which is that actual football cannot enough.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Okay.
I mean, could we not write articles about this shit? Like, come on.
Oh my God. Peak sports journalism, if I've ever seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any more news, by the way?
Let me see here. I've got one more item. So, do you remember the last dramatic article reading that I did about Bengals running back Mark Walton?
Yeah.
Who was tased and then ran away. Like, he was tased, pulled the barbs out, and ran away.
Yes.
And then the Bengals cut him. Well, the Dolphins, I guess, read about that and went, yep, that's our guy.
Of course the Dolphins did.
Yeah, so the Dolphins have signed Mark Walton. So he's still potentially facing discipline from the league, but in the meantime, he's practicing with the Miami Dolphins. So we'll keep monitoring that situation. So that is all that I have for news, other than the picture that's on the thumbnail of Aaron Rodgers getting burned in King's Landing, because of course he made a Game of Thrones cameo. Game of Thrones is now done. The show has wrapped up. So let's have our Game of Thrones discussion now. But by the way, on the Aaron Rodgers thing, I did not spot him when I watched the episode. I did not realize that was him running down that tunnel. But I remember seeing that shot and being like, that was a weird shot. Of one guy splitting off from the crowd and then getting engulfed in flame. I was like, that was an odd shot, but okay.
And then you realize,
Then later I found out, oh, that was Aaron Rodgers. Okay. But anyway, yeah, what did you think of how Game of Thrones ended?
Game of Thrones, as many have stated, Season 8 was kind of poop. Kind of was. Kind of poop.
Really?
Season 8 was a little narrative. You see, this is why I believe. I'm somebody who really pointed this out and put it into fantastic words. Is if you look at the YouTube channel now, you see it. Sometimes he's kind of conspiracy theorist movie type, where he basically. I remember one video I watched by him where he talked about how Inglourious Bastards is making fun of the audience because of the violence. It's like, no shit, you know? I don't think I needed a whole 20-minute diatribe of that. But this one where he talks about how Game of Thrones' narrative structure changed and that's why people don't like it. And Game of Thrones, in the first few seasons, worked best because of its D&D-like story structure, right? Where you got this intro where it shows the entire map, right? Where everything's going on and all these stories that are disconnected but also like relatively connected, and all these events are having ripples across this time frame, and everything's just, there's not one set goal, there's not a set villain for everyone, there's not a good guy, a bad guy, it's just a bunch of people doing what people do. And that was really cool. It was just really like interesting. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know who's going to die. It was always like unpredictable and unprecedented what was going to happen. And towards like the end of season 6, I think, after the Boltons died, everything's became really linear narrative, so they could kind of wrap it up and feel like there was this inherent goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the Night King and who's going to rule the kingdoms and blah, blah, blah. And once it became like really linear, the story structure kind of falls flat because it wasn't designed to be that way. And because of the rushed nature of the ending, which everyone has kindly pointed out, it did seem to be a disappointment to many. I thought the last episode was fine, even though like there are like some like moments in the show where it's like, yeah, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Why is Bran the king? But yeah, I'll let it slide. It's happy. It's sweet. Tonally, it's consistent, and like it makes enough sense so I can forego it. But the second to last episode was just, it would have been better if there was more build up and it was executed better. The idea made a lot of sense, where Daenerys actually is Mad Queen, actually becomes this inherent evil force that believes she's all righteous. But it just doesn't make sense based on the character development from that point. Have you seen, by the way, all those compilations of like the actors trying to hold in like how much they hate the show?
I have not.
Oh, I gotta link you some of those after this because it's really funny. Especially like Peter Dinklage. Oh man.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I actually, I don't know. I agree with you that I didn't really like that second to last episode. I don't know. It just seemed too anticlimactic.
Especially Cersei dying to rubble. We waited 10 years for her to die to a building? What the fuck?
I know that I wish they had done differently. But anyway, I did feel like they kind of ended the show the only way they could.
They pinned himself into a corner. I think they could have ended it way better. They could have, you know, the HBO offered them 10 episodes, right? And they said, "No, we'll do it in 6."
Yeah,
He can do it in 9.
They should have done more episodes.
You needed more time.
Because I agree, the last really 3 episodes seemed really rushed, and they should have had at least one more to like draw out that story and make it just, you know, not feel rushed, I guess.
Oh man, another thing, right? These guys, the writers, are the same people. One of them wrote X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
If the narrative structure of this last season isn't telling about that, and these are the guys that are also going to work on Star Wars next. Yeah. Jeez, that's just sad. Sad.
Well, anyway, overall, though, I did still think that it was good. Like it, I don't know. I think that part of the reason that people are so frustrated with how season 8 ended is that a lot of people had to wait a long time for season 8. I did not.
I wonder
Um,
who had to wait a lot of time.
like most people who are fans of the show had to wait, a year, 2 years for this season.
Most
And
people had to wait half a decade. I'm gonna be honest with you. Most people
yeah, and
started
I
watching after
didn't.
season 3.
I didn't because I binged the entire series and caught up a couple weeks ago, like as the penultimate episode was coming out. Um, so from my perspective, it seemed like the only logical way to conclude the story. And I kind of liked that the world sort of condensed in this last season, where you know Daenerys had finally come to Westeros and everyone came together. Then you get the battle at Winterfell, and then all of those people at Winterfell come to King's Landing, and everybody is all in one place at the end. It made sense that way, and I thought it was
I think that it would have just made a lot more sense, honestly, if the Night King won. That would have made a lot of sense.
that would have been awful.
That look with all these omens, and it would have been like this whole, because a lot of Game of Thrones is basically like, the moral of a lot of Game of Thrones is fate don't mean shit. Faith and fate don't matter. That's from the majority of the seasons. That was like the big takeaway. Like, this guy says his god does this, their god does that, or like,
Hearing you.
I've been doing this, blah blah blah, and like, even with the septums and King's Landing, like, that's a great example of like, faith doesn't matter. There's lag. Okay. Can you hear me? Hello. Well,
Are you hearing me now?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, I'm
All right.
back. Sorry, there was some lag going on there.
That's okay. Basically, it's whatever. At this point, the show's kind of bland. It's stupid. When it came to the end, I liked, like, this happens with TV shows a lot. TV shows are kind of bad in general because of their narrative structure and how they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just the way that TV shows are made makes it so that it's hard to actually make a proper narrative story. Which is why Game of Thrones is so interesting, because of the direction they took their narrative in the first few seasons. And it was like, this is so much fun. And it became closely knit to like rooting for a team. Like people give Bolton a lot of shit. Those were some of the most interesting and most entertaining episodes of the entire series. Ramsay Bolton was amazing for the series.
Yeah.
Everyone hated the rape scene with Sansa, and you're supposed to hate rape, but like, in a show, that shit was fucking fire.
Wait. You're supposed to not like. Okay. I had a very different perspective on that scene.
Yeah.
No, kidding, of course. Rape is bad.
And before, you're never gonna be hired. This shows up and like your background check, and you're just like, well, oof.
Yeah. Shouldn't have probably said that, but anyway.
That's okay.
Yeah, the Boltons were really interesting, and you're right; those were some really good episodes. When they were dealing with that, but that being said, I mean, who wasn't happy when Ramsay Bolton was finally dead? You know?
Yeah, he was such a nice soul, kind-hearted. He was so forgiving and so heartbroken that his dogs were starving that he gave his own flesh.
Uh-huh.
What a incredible soul. He provided his servants with baths as rewards. Have you seen that video, by the way? The video where it's like Ramsay Bolton, nicest guy in Westeros, where
I
it's
have
just
not.
this Ramsay Bolton propaganda.
I have
Kindest
not
man.
seen that.
Here, I'll give it to you. This might start midway through because there it is. Now there we go. There it is. The show's actually just stark propaganda made to make him look bad.
I see. All right. Well, do you have any other things to say about Game of Thrones?
No, not really.
Okay. Well then, let us move on. Yep, that's all that I had for news, by the way. So we're done with that. So we can finally move on to our playoff predictions. So we've told you.
Man, do you want me to
We've
get the
told you
wild card
now.
on?
Not quite yet, because I have something to clear up first.
Right.
So we made an error. So far, we've only uncovered one error that we made in this whole thing, which is that the game between the Steelers and Jets in what week was that? In week 16, the Steelers Jets game. In our spreadsheet, we gave both teams a win in that game, which obviously cannot happen. When factoring in playoffs, we gave that win to the Jets. So we decided that we would officially give that win to the Jets. Which means it drops the Steelers from 9-7 to 8-8.
Doesn't really do anything because they were never in playoff contention.
Correct. Excuse me. Sorry. Damn.
Whoa.
Sorry.
As Ryan dies over there. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I died there for a second.
He's been revived.
I have been reborn.
A new man.
Like Jon Snow. Anyway. So yeah, it drops the Steelers to 8-8, which doesn't do anything because they were out of the picture anyway. The Jets remain 10-6 then. So this does create a complicated tiebreak scenario. So in the AFC, I'll just run this down. So we had the Colts were the number 1 seed, and I know we went over this last time, but I'm going to state it again. The Colts are the number 1 seed, Chiefs 2, Patriots 3, and then the Browns win the AFC North and get the 4th seed. The Jaguars at 11-5 get the top wild card spot, and then at 10-6 we have both the Jets and Chargers. So we had to figure out the tie breaks for them. So the first tie break, of course, is head-to-head. They did not play, so can't apply that one. They had the same conference winning percentage, which is the next tie break. So we have to go to the third tie break.
I don't know how many times in history this has happened, but yes.
Many, I'm sure.
Really?
But I'm sure it's happened. But the third tie break is common games. So essentially you add up, you figure out their winning percentage against the opponents that they both played. So here are the opponents that they both played. They both played the Jaguars. They both lost to the Jaguars. So no advantage there. They both played the Dolphins. Now, of course, the Chargers played them once and won. The Jets played them twice and won both. So the Jets, in these common games that I've said so far, the Jets are up 2-1. The Chargers are 1-1. Then the next common opponent, though, is the Raiders, who the Chargers play twice. The Chargers win both. The Jets win their matchup with the Raiders. So now both teams are 3-1 in common games. And so it all comes down to the game against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wait.
Yes, the one that we screwed up. So, as it turns out, we had the Steelers beating the Chargers and the Jets beating the Steelers. So, the Jets end up 4-1 in common games, the Chargers 3-2. The Jets grab the 6th seed in the playoffs.
That is too complicated and too close to call.
Yeah, it's I mean it's obviously very close. They had all the same outcomes except for that Steelers game. And thank God we did not have to go to the next tiebreak.
Which isn't that like overall record of teams played?
Um, Let me look it up really quick because I think it might be. Um, yeah, head to head, win loss tie in conference, common games. Yeah, the next tiebreak is strength of victory. Um, so that would have been really annoying. Um, so thankfully we didn't have to go to that. Um, anyway, so yeah, we get the Jets as the 6th seed, and then the NFC seeding is the 49ers, of course, crush the league. They end up number 1.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
Why else would they be?
yep, the Falcons are number 2. The Eagles 3, Bears 4. The Bears and Packers were tied, but the Bears had the division record tiebreak. The Rams then are the 5th seed, and the Packers get the 6th seed. Um, so, yeah, that's the playoff picture. So, if you want to put up the image for the first round, the wild card round of the playoffs, yep. And of course, I have the winning teams highlighted here in the image. So do you have it up?
I do have it up. I indeed do.
All right. So this is what we get. So in the AFC, the matchups are Jacksonville at Cleveland, and the Jets at Patriots. And then in the NFC, it's Rams at Bears, Packers at Eagles. So yeah. What do you want to say about these games?
Duval.
Mm-hmm.
Duval. Yay. Honestly, my prediction, I mean, the only game that's going to kind of sting is the Jets losing cuz like, oh.
Yeah.
Will this be the first year that in like the last 5 that the Patriots aren't in a first round bye, by the way?
Oh, it's a lot longer than that. I think this would be. I think they've gone like 11 straight years with a first round bye.
Ever since the Matt Castle year, right?
Yeah, every year since the Matt Castle year, they've had a first round bye. And I think that they've actually made the AFC Championship in like 8 straight or something. So like,
Gross.
yeah,
It's such a gross record.
I know. I hate the Patriots. I want them to be gone. Um, so yeah, this year we finally have them not getting that first round bye. Um, so they do beat the Jets though. So they will advance to the second round. And the Jaguars beat the Browns, which is honestly that was a tough game for me to pick, and I think I just agreed to give it to the Jaguars because they're your team.
Yay.
But if this matchup actually comes to pass, I will 100% be rooting for the Browns.
Hey. No. No, absolutely not. This is not okay. This is a pro Jaguars space.
I'm sorry. I mean, I would be happy for you if the Jaguars won, but I would be more happy, I think, for the Browns if the Browns won. Like, I really love this Browns team. I want to root for them. They are America's team.
They are what it means to be American.
Yeah. So I want the Browns to succeed. But anyway, we gave it to the Jags. And then in the NFC, of course, the Packers, they're still a ways away from being able to really contend in the NFC. So they lose to Philly, which is fine. I mean, if the Packers go 11-5 and make the playoffs, I'll be very happy with this first season under Matt LaFleur. So, losing in the playoffs always sucks, but still, I would be happy with this outcome for the Packers season, looking at the big picture. And then the last game is Rams at Bears, and I wanted to give this to the Rams, and I think you pushed really hard for the Bears.
Well, yeah, the Bear. I'm pushing for defense wins championships.
Yeah.
And think about this. The Rams, they're not a dome team, are they?
They are not. They will be a dome team.
They will be. See?
They will be a dome team soon.
Think about this.
By the way, that was like the one rule that I always insist upon in this exercise is that dome teams cannot win outdoor playoff games.
It's impossible.
And in this first round, none of the road teams are dome teams, so it doesn't make a difference here. But
does that mean that they'll never be?
What?
When will a road team be? No, never mind. That's a bad way of.
I think actually in this playoffs, I don't know that we have a dome team playing on the road. Because actually, none of these 8 teams are dome teams if you look at them. So
yeah,
these are all outdoor games. So I guess that just kind of worked out, but. Yeah, so the Bears winning at home against the Rams, just like in that late season matchup last year,
Yeah. I believe the Bears are just better.
Honestly, that would be a really fun playoff game, just to get Bears and Rams, whether it's in LA or in Chicago. That would be a really fun matchup.
Right?
Bryce.
Hello. My only strife will be if Bortles is somehow the starting quarterback, right, for the Los Angeles Rams. They absolutely win that game.
God, why?
What do you?
Why are you like this? Okay.
All I'm saying is this quarterback is going places.
All right, so let's just move on to the next round. We will move on now to the divisional round. So with the Patriots winning, of course, they then go to play the number 2 seed Kansas City Chiefs. And we have the Chiefs beating them. So the Chiefs win the matchup that they could not win at home this past year. And they advance past the Patriots. Then I'm going to skip the Jags for now, and we'll come back to them. Talk about the NFC side. So we have the Eagles going into Atlanta, and they lose to the Falcons. And then we have the Bears going in and shocking the number 1 seed 49ers.
Which makes a lot of sense because the Bears are the best defense in the league, and they're going to win. Because the Bears are just that good.
On the road against what we think will be a dominant team all season.
Why, yes. Why else would they be?
So, the Bears apparently are going to just go in and beat San Francisco. No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. That's all. That's what everyone's predicting.
Yep. So, Bears continue. And at this point, I remember in our predictions, I was like, okay, you are not going to make the Bears win the Super Bowl. This just will not happen. I refuse to allow it.
Your Packer bias is just fuming inside.
Yeah. And by the way, if we had given that game to the 49ers, they would have advanced to the Super Bowl then because they would have been facing Atlanta, a dome team, outdoors. So, they would have beaten the Falcons, of course.
No matter what, which is kind of a spoiler for the conference.
Well, no, because
Oh,
the
wait.
Falcons are home.
No, what I said was a spoiler for the conference.
Yes,
I
what you
have
said was a
made a
spoiler.
mistake.
That's okay, Bryce. We all make mistakes. It's just that some people are idiots.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just a straight ad hom, not even anything witty. Just like, except you're just an idiot. Okay, cool. Yeah, no,
Pretty
I get
much.
it. Yeah, no, I get it. No, and that's
Okay,
why
so
the
then
Jacksonville Jaguars are making it to the conference. All right.
yeah, so then the Jaguars and Colts. So I I did not want the Jaguars to win this game. You pushed hard for this pick. I just honestly, division teams like this, the Colts being 14-2, the Jaguars 11-5. I mean, I could see the Jags winning it, but like,
Who's more likely to win? The
and
Jaguars.
I feel like it's the Colts at home are much more likely to win.
Think about it. Every single time they play against each other, the Jaguars somehow, even this year, they went 1-1 with the roster they had. With the late game woes, they beat the Colts with Cody Kessler.
Yeah. Who, by the way, I didn't mention this in the news, but Cody Kessler was cut this past week.
Because Gardner Minshew is that good.
Uh-huh. Anyway,
he's better than Cody.
I mean, better than Cody Kessler is a pretty damn low bar. But anyway,
fair enough.
Anyway, yeah, we have the Jaguars beating the Colts. So this sets up Jags at Chiefs and Bears at Falcons in the championship round.
Yeah.
So you want to go ahead and put that up on the screen?
I'm going to put that right. Give me a second. Damn. Here we go. And as I have already mentioned, as Adam Gaze stares down, Jesus, this thumbnail is so good.
So yeah, the Bears go in to Atlanta hot on the heels of their win at San Francisco. They beat Atlanta as well in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Whatever.
Defense wins championships.
Yeah. Even on the fast track in Atlanta, they're able to slow down Julio Jones and the Falcons offense. So yeah, the Bears are headed to the Super Bowl, and this was a point where I was like, the Bears just cannot win the Super Bowl. I refuse to predict it. And I think I made the compromise with you that I would allow the Jags to advance to the AFC Championship if you would allow the Bears to not win the Super Bowl. And
well,
so
here we
anyway,
are.
Yeah, we then had the Chiefs beating the Jaguars at home. So it sets up Bears and Chiefs. So you want to put the final image up on the screen.
We have to put the image.
The image.
The triple doink.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. This is what our podcast is all about.
The scenario here that we came up with, that we concocted, because Bryce was still pushing hard for the Bears to win the Super Bowl. And I said, here's the scenario. Late game, Bears up 6. Patrick Mahomes drives the length of the field. The Chiefs score a touchdown with just under a minute left on the clock to take a 1-point lead. They kick off. Touchback. The Bears starting from the 25-yard line. Mitchell Trubisky drives down the field with accurate passing. They kill the clock with seconds remaining, just inside field goal range. And they send on their kicker,
Chris Blewett,
who, little did we know at the time, was going to be Chris Blewett. And for the game, the Super Bowl winning field goal attempt, it hits off the left upright, off the crossbar, off the right upright, and goes out. The triple doink. to give the Chiefs a Super Bowl win.
This is history. This is predicted, set in stone, going to happen no matter what. Every prediction is right. I've never been wrong.
Yep, exactly. This will happen. So yeah, we have the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, which, stepping back from our predictions now seems very unlikely considering the the whole Tyreek Hill situation, and who knows if they'll be able to figure out that offense without him. But nonetheless, this is what we predicted the day after Rams Patriots. We decided that this would happen.
Andy Reid will never get a Super Bowl, will he?
No, probably not.
He will be the best coach to never win a Super Bowl.
Last year was his chance.
Yeah.
Last year, and of course the 1 year with Philadelphia, and both times he got beaten by Bill Belichick.
The only guy who could.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sad.
Anyway, you want to put up the full bracket picture?
Sure, I'll leave that up.
Yep. So that is our full playoff prediction. And that wraps up our entire season prediction. I don't know what we're going to do next time.
That is a very good point. I don't either.
We will have to figure something out for next time.
Oh, man.
But anyway, yeah, it all ends with the Chiefs beating the Bears on the triple doink. And that is how we got the name of our podcast, the Triple Doink Podcast. So now, 9 episodes in, you finally know.
You finally... It's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
A long time.
Quite the journey.
Quite, yeah. How do you feel at the end of the road? Do you feel satisfied? Accomplished?
Yes.
Well, I don't feel quite too accomplished yet. I want to see the season play out exactly the way we predicted. If we get a week completely right, what do we do?
I think we retire.
Everything else was a fluke. I swear. This 1 week.
Yeah, watch. Like week 7, we get completely right, and we just go, "Yep, we're done."
All right. So the podcast has ended.
Yep.
What if we do this? If we get everything completely right 1 week, or if we get everything wrong 1 week.
Okay. Yeah, I like this so far.
We have to quit. It's just. We can't live with ourselves if we lose, and we can't ever get better if we win. We will either go out at our best or go out on our worst.
No, I don't want to quit. I'm too much.
Yeah.
But we should do something if we either get all of them right or all of them wrong in a week. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah.
There
has to be some sort of punishment for getting every single prediction wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we have to do a whole podcast like on a few ghost peppers.
Yeah.
I don't know how do you do a spicy food? I love spicy food.
I do okay with it.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I hated it, and I still don't really eat spicy food that much, but I do okay with it now.
All right. Fair
anyway,
enough.
So yeah, I guess that's all that we have to talk about. Do you want to say anything else before we get into the music discussion?
I don't have anything else to bring up, no.
All right, well, let's get into the music discussion. Now, what the hell did I recommend last time?
Diamond Head?
Oh yeah, Diamond Head, Lightning to the Nations. So what were your thoughts on that?
What I will say is that I don't have an ear for a classic metal, like the early like renditions of these types of these bands. And with that being said, I thought it was more than anything interesting to be like, oh, this is where it all started. This is how it sounds, like stuff like that. Hearing that's like that's cool.
That's kind of what I
that's
thought.
Cool.
That's what I took away from it too, honestly.
I mean, it is what it is. I wouldn't listen to it again, but it's cool to go back and be like, that's a nice way. But I mean, I would rather still listen to like Jethro Tull from like that era or something like
Okay,
that.
fair enough. All right.
But yeah, so Godspeed You, Black Emperors, F sharp, A sharp, Infinity.
Right.
Your opinion.
What was this, Bryce?
Beautiful.
Honestly,
It was really good. It's one
like,
of my favorite records of all time. It's so pretty.
no,
So
it's not. It's
so
just
good.
not.
What?
It's like, okay, the majority of it, I was like super indifferent to. And then the parts that I was not indifferent to, I was like, what the hell is this?
The car's on fire and there's no
Yeah.
driver at the wheel. Are you
Just
kidding
like
me? That's so sad. Do you not? He's talking about the end of the world.
Dude, it's just
the picture is so vivid and he's saying like nothing but everything at once. It's like, ooh. So
it
good.
just seems, and the way you're describing it completely validates what I was about to say, which is that it just
Did you
seems
say
super,
pretentious, I
super
swear to God.
pretentious. Yes.
God damn it.
Yes, way too pretentious.
No, it's perfect. It's poetry. It's
No.
art. It is art.
It is art. It is bad art.
It is
but
good.
It's art.
Are you kidding me? It's beautiful.
Oh, dude, I did not
East
like
Hastings
this at all.
is so good. Do. God, I can hear those motifs in my head so clearly.
I'm sorry, I just did not like this at all.
I love post rock. Post rock is so good. I love music like this. It's some of my favorite. F sharp, A sharp. I even have this shit on vinyl. It comes with a Molotov cocktail recipe.
That's wonderful.
This is what you get from anarchists who make music.
Yeah.
I don't have to agree with what they think. I just like their art.
Anyway, yeah, I did not like this one.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's too bad. I always like when I listen to these, I'm always really hoping that I'll like it, and I'm disappointed when I don't, because I know that all of the things that you recommend to me are things that you really like, and I wish that I could have that in common with you, but I just can't.
Yeah. It does suck when there seems to be like some sort of art that everyone's just very, very keen on, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you just like, I don't see this. Where
Yeah.
is the passion coming from, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand that, yeah.
All right. So should we move on to next week's recommendations?
Of course.
Okay. So before we do, I would like to ask you, Bryce, what do you think, in your opinion, is the defining moment in our friendship?
Defining moment. It had to be during the car trip, didn't it?
Yeah, I would agree. Yep. This, by the way, we're referring to the trip that Bryce and I took to St. Louis, which is roughly a 7-hour drive from where we live. So a very long car trip.
Taking it together. That was a lot of fun. To this day.
It was fun. It was a really fun trip. I had a lot of fun. But
I think the defining moment was going to the Arch and it being closed.
Yeah, that's a pretty good answer. Or
going to Sonic twice.
That's also a pretty good answer. Here's my answer though, and I have a feeling you're not going to like this. So background on the trip, right? This is over our spring break, right? And it is the end of our spring break. So it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the end of spring break. and then we go back to school on Monday.
You know, the coolest
So
of
I
Chads
pick
spend their end of their spring break on a chess tournament.
So I go and pick up Bryce at his parents' house on Friday morning. And by the way, on my radar, because if now people who don't know the geography of the Fox Valley region will not understand why, but I live in Neenah, right, which is like at the center of the Fox Valley. And then to the north is Appleton, where Bryce's
Where
house
I
is.
reside. Yep.
Right. And then to the south of Neenah is Oshkosh, where our campus is. Now Bryce lives on campus during the semester, but he was home at his parents' house for spring break. Now, if Bryce had been considerate to me, he would have moved himself back into his dorm room on Thursday night so that I could pick him up in Oshkosh on Friday morning and not have to drive north to Appleton for 20 minutes and then another 20 minutes back, right? Going back south the other direction. But instead, Bryce had me pick him up at his parents' house, then drive him all the way to St. Louis, and then drop him off at Oshkosh and help him move in. So that that was like really on my radar, and I gave you shit for it at the time. But
I didn't even remember that.
yeah. Well, clearly it stuck with me. But anyway,
I didn't know you felt so strongly about that.
honestly, I don't feel that strongly about it. It's kind of whatever, but you know. Anyway, it's just adding 40 minutes to a 7+ hour drive, whatever. Anyway, so the other interesting note about that drive is that Bryce decided to get like zero sleep the night before.
So when it was your
Because-
pick, right?
Right, yeah. So
I remember.
so this
I
is-
felt so bad.
this is the defining moment in our friendship, is that Bryce decided not to sleep the night before this, and he's like, well, I have to play chess tonight, so I'd better sleep in the car. And we finally got into Illinois, and we were on a stretch of highway that went on for like 80 miles
That
or
was-
something, where
I blame the highway more than anything.
we were on this long stretch where I didn't have to exit for a long time, and Bryce was like, all right, now I'm going to just try to get a little bit of sleep while I don't have to give you any directions for a while. And it just so happened that that was during the same stretch where it was one of my music picks on our playlist. And do you remember which one it was?
I swear to God, this was like the other Chameleon Circuit record.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, thank God.
No, this was when I was trying to make you listen to, or rather re-listen to, Linkin Park's Living Things.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
Oh, no!
which I maintain is actually still a good album.
You could have just given me Hybrid Theory and I would have been like, damn, that's nostalgia right there. I would have even been fine with the record Meteoria. Fuck it.
Well,
that one's like decent, maybe, sometimes. But like, why?
Meteora's great.
Why Living Things?
Dude,
Ah!
Meteora's great. Okay, here's the thing with Linkin Park is that they made 7 albums, right? And 2 were great, 3 were good, and 2 were bad. And it just so happens that the 2 great ones happened to be their first 2. And so it set the bar insanely high, and they could never get there again.
I don't think the bar is that high. I think Hybrid Theory was a great album, right, for what it was. But because they only fulfilled a certain niche in music that got stale really quick, they had to evolve their sound. And it just so happens they evolved their sound into a very, very terrible place.
Well, okay. I mean, that's your opinion. That's fine. Meteora, honestly, I think is the better album of those first 2, though.
Nah,
I
Living
I really
Things.
love I love Meteora. There are no
Yeah,
bad songs on that
Hybrid
album.
Theory. No. Ah, you're saying there's no bad songs on a Linkin Park album. That's just wrong. Yeah, but I will give them credit for
Hybrid
those
Theory is
first
good
two
too.
records.
But anyway, no, Living Things honestly is still I think a pretty good album. It's not great, but I I still like it. And I wanted you on that car trip. I was like, I'm going to make you listen to this one again because you know, I still think it's good and I want you to give it another shot. And then of course you slept through it. So here we are. You're going to listen to it now.
I don't regret it.
You don't regret it. So here we are once again. You're going to listen to Living Things this time, and you're going to tell me how much you hate it next time we record.
Look, man. How do you know I'm gonna hate? Yeah,
Yeah, you're gonna hate it, and that's okay.
that's okay. My recommendation is actually, I don't know. Have you ever listened to a little band called The Prodigy?
No, I
They
don't think
made
I
the
have.
song "Smack My Bitch Up." They
Okay.
have the most successful opening album CD sales for an album, at least did when the album was released. I think if you listen to the album, you might recognize a few songs. This is what's
Okay.
known as Big Beat. Big
What's
Beat,
the name of the album?
The Fat of the Land by The Prodigy. The lead singer actually died this year, sadly. He overdosed.
Oh,
Yeah. It's
that's
a
too bad.
90s Big Beat record, and it's got a few songs like Breathe, Firestarter, Diesel Power. Let me think. When I smack my bitch up, you might just know.
Okay.
I mean, this is a fairly popular record for what it is. And honestly, one of the greatest dance records of all time. It's fantastic. So fucking high energy. So much throttling. It's the Crab record. If you've ever heard of the Crab album, this is the Crab album.
Okay.
As
Yeah,
you
I'm
see-
looking at
Yeah,
I'm looking at the picture of the album cover
it's the
right
Crab
now. So
album. Yeah. The original Crab Rave.
yeah. Okay, whatever that means.
Oh man.
All right. Well, I have no idea what this is, so yeah,
Crab
that'll be
music.
interesting.
Real crab music. Oh man.
I love how, by the way, whenever you Google just an album or whatever, like
yeah.
Google will like tell you facts about it. And I love when it's like 98% liked this album. 98% of Google users. And I'm like, the thing is, that's super inflated because
Yeah.
like only the people who actually like this are looking it up for the most part. Like that's why. Like according to Google, I'm sure every album has like a 80+% like rate.
Unless if it's like Speeding Bullet to Heaven. Let me see what they have to say about the Speeding Bullet to Heaven. 62%. Haha.
All right, well,
There's one.
Anyway.
Here, let me also look up Angelic to the Core. Let's see. 12%. Yeah, look up this. It's Corey Feldman, the guy from the Goonies. He made an album. And yep, 12%.
You want to guess what percentage like Living Things?
Let me guess, it's like 80. Hello?
Oh, I thought you were looking it up. Sorry.
Let me see. 98%. God.
98, yeah.
Gross. Disgusting.
So same percentage as the Fat of the Land. So roughly the same chances that I'll like that as you liking Living Things.
I'm sure that's how it works.
Yep, that's got to be how it works. All right. Well, anyway,
Yep.
I guess that wraps things up, right? So we'll I guess we'll be back next week. unless it's a super slow news week and we just have nothing to say. So yeah, we will be back in episode 10, and I have no idea what we'll do in place of our prediction segment.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to figure that out at some point. So any final closing thoughts, Bryce?
Well, now that everyone knows about the triple doink,
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to see it all pan out. That's all I'm waiting for.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing just how wrong we are.
If we get a 70% prediction rate, I think we go out and celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely.
70% is crazy, especially this far in advance.
By the way, if you recall, my final prediction that I made that night was that we would have that our final results for these predictions once the season is complete will be statistically have no statistical significant I can't speak.
Have no statistical significant difference.
Yes, have no statistically significant difference from random.
So you're saying it's a coin flip?
Right. Essentially, we will be statistically no significantly better or worse than a coin flip.
That's where you're wrong, kiddo, when that happened.
That was my final prediction. We'll see if that one was right. I'm really hoping it's wrong because it would be hilarious.
36% prediction rate.
Like, it would be hilarious if we were like super accurate or super inaccurate. Either way would be great.
Either way, it's like, well, our intuition is right in some way.
Yeah. Anyway, so that, I guess, wraps up this podcast.
Yep.
So until next time, Ryan and Bryce on the Triple Doink Podcast, Darmok and Jalad on the ocean.
All right. See ya.